Hello, everyone. Welcome. Go ahead and mute your microphones if you haven't already as we get settled in here. All right. I'm going to wait one more minute. I see some more attendees hopping on, so we'll give a moment for people to settle in here. We'll get started. For folks just joining us, this session will be recorded and we will post the recording on where the RFP is listed on DEED's website. And we will also share the slide deck for everybody. And so you can share that if you have some folks who may be interested in this grant opportunity or not able to attend, you'll be able to forward that on or and share that or review it later with your grant writing teams. So we're 1 minute after or 2 minutes after 11, so we'll go ahead and get started. We're scheduled for an hour and a half for this session. If we need all that time, we'll use it. And if we don't need all that time, if we get through all the questions that we may have before then, we'll go ahead and end a little early. We have a lot of content to cover, a lot of details, but we want to make sure we leave plenty of time for questions. So before I forget, I want to introduce myself. My name is Brandon Toner. I am the director of the Office of Small Business Partnerships. We partner with communities to support vibrant main streets, address urgent economic development needs, and support Minnesota's diverse entrepreneurs. So we partner on communities on a large variety of different types of programs, of which childcare is an urgent issue that we, through this program, we work on. And then I want to introduce myself. Paul, if you can just unmute yourself briefly, just so people at least hear your voice. My colleague, Paul Daniels, who's a grant specialist on our team, he'll be also helping to present as well. So I'm just going to get us kicked off here. So what is this program about? The program objective is to provide grants to local communities to implement solutions to reduce the childcare shortage in the state. This is really about community-led initiatives to address what their most urgent needs are in terms of addressing childcare shortages in their community and the solutions that will work for that community. And overall, we're trying to reduce the childcare shortage in the state in support of the state's and local communities' economic development efforts. Childcare in the childcare industry is a foundational asset to a strong, vibrant economy where all workers who want to enter the work field can, and that childcare workers themselves and the programs are successful in this industry, successful in this endeavor, and thrive and grow their operations. And so this program seeks to support that in an overall fairly modest way, but we hope in an impactful way for those communities most in need. The agenda today, we're going to go over the timeline. We're going to cover the goals and objectives of the grant program, and then we're going to dive deep on the details of the RFP itself. And we're going to talk about what we expect in terms of the proposal format and submission. And then also, once you submit a proposal, what happens after? What is the evaluation process like? And give a little bit of sneak peek if you are successful in receiving a grant, what that's going to look like in terms of if you've never received a state grant before, what that process will look like. So the timeline, RFP is out. We are holding the information session today, July 26th. Please get us all your questions via email or in today's session. We want to make sure that those answers are available to everybody, so please get those questions to us by August 16th. And the deadline to submit a proposal will be 4 p.m. on August 30, 2022. We highly recommend getting it in even a day early, just in case. We will send you a receipt that we've received it, but sometimes technology issues pop up. Don't wait till the last minute and get a proposal in at 4:05 on that day and get rejected. We hate to do that. So get it in, even a couple hours early, if not a day earlier. We expect award notifications to go out sometimes in September, October, and contracts will be aimed to be executed October, November, depending on how that goes. It depends, it's project and grant specific. And then the grant will be through the performance period terminates at the December 31st, 2023. A little bit more than a year for performance to accomplish the objectives of the grant, should you receive one. Grant awards are for October 2022 through December 31st, 2023. And the maximum award is $300,000. A little detail I want to cover real quickly before I kick it over to my colleague Paul is that this is a little bit of a change since last time, but to be eligible for the maximum amount of $300,000, we want to see proposals that are serving more than one single location, right? If you are submitting a proposal that is serving one location, you can request up to $150,000. But to get the maximum, we want to see more than one location served, so at least a minimum of 2 locations. You may ask, and we can talk about this later in the discussion or the question session, what about family childcare? We want to see proposals right-sized to the level of activity and the cost associated with serving family childcare or centers. And so, you know, you have to make the case of the amount of funding you'll need to serve that, but we do not expect, you know, a single family childcare provider to be granted $150,000 for a project. That would not be an appropriate scale for a family childcare provider that's providing care for 10 to 12 children. A total of $2.4 million is available in grants, and an estimated number of awards we expect about between 8 and 12, and 50% minimum match, cash or in kind, and matching waivers are available for qualifying projects. And 50% of the funds will go to Greater Minnesota-based projects, and 50% of the funds will go to Metro. This is just a quick overview. We are going to dive into all the details related to every single piece on this. So I'm going to kick it over to my colleague Paul, who's going to go over the rest of the content here. So Paul, you want to take it off here?
Absolutely. Hi, everybody. Thanks for being in the session today. I want to talk about eligible applicants for a minute. In order to be eligible for this grant, you need to be a local government unit, a tribal nation, or a nonprofit organization. And specifically, we're looking for organizations that have experience in the delivery of childcare services, either through operations or planning for, financing, advocacy, or advancement of the delivery of childcare services is what we're looking for in a strong applicant. So the goal here is to award grants to local communities to implement projects, and specifically those projects should be reducing the childcare shortage and increasing the number of quality childcare providers in their community. The basics here is we're looking to increase the supply of childcare in the state. And there's a whole list here of things, types of projects that could be implemented to do that. This isn't all inclusive. There's probably ideas we haven't thought of or that might go outside of these items, but this list gives you at least some idea of the types of things we're looking for in projects in order to increase the supply, and essentially any means of, or any type of project that is increasing the supply is what we're looking for in these applications. We are definitely looking for partnerships and collaborations in strong proposals. I think having many partners or collaborating broadly within the community would make for a stronger proposal. That being said, a lead fiscal agent does need to be identified for each proposal, and that person or that group identified will be responsible for the administration of the grant. When it comes to putting together this collaboration, we want to remind you that you cannot collude. That would involve directly sharing specific content from a potential proposal with another potential applicant. Obviously, in forming partnerships and collaborations, there are conversations and a lot of that goes on, but specifically you cannot collude with other responders for this RFP. And when it comes to your budget, we want to make sure that you're identifying the sources of any project matching dollars, and if there's other state money involved, what percentage that might make up. So for the matching funds, we do offer a waiver that you can request if you meet one or more of the following conditions. Most of them are the same as in previous funding cycles for this grant, but I want to draw your attention to the first one here that it's increased, and now more than 75% of new child care slots created with the funds need to serve infants or toddlers in order to qualify. It was previously 50%. And the other 3 bullet points here are the same as in the past, but just to go through them, to qualify for a matching waiver, if more than 50% of the new child care slots are created outside of standard business hours, that will qualify, or projects that are located in geographic areas where 30% or more of the children are BIPOC individuals, or where at least 15% of the children living in the area are in families living in poverty. Those would both qualify to request a waiver as well for the matching requirement. Now to jump into the details of the RFP and actually go through the format and specifics of what needs to be submitted. This is an overview of everything we're expecting. There needs to be a cover page and a 1-page executive summary, broadly covering what your project is proposing. There are 6 narrative sections with specific questions that need to be addressed within each of those sections. We will cover those questions here in a bit. And I want to draw everyone's attention to the last category there, which is bonus points. This is a new category we've added in the narrative section. In an attempt to target funds, we were offering bonus points, and I'll cover a little bit more about that later. And then there are a few required attachments as well that we'll talk about at the end. So the proposals will be evaluated by a panel of subject matter experts and community reviewers. Ultimately, they provide a recommendation to the Commissioner of Deed, who is responsible for final award decisions. The scoring is on a 100-point scale coming from the 6 main sections, and there are 10 bonus points, as previously mentioned. So if the proposal gets 100 points on the first 6 sections, it would still be eligible for 10 bonus points with a maximum of 110. So the first part of the application is going to be the cover sheet or form number 1 and the executive summary. This is just going to cover basic organizational info that we need in order to administer a grant, as well as a broad summary of what the proposal will include. Both these are required pieces of the proposal that need to be submitted to us. Then the first narrative section that we're going to talk about is the project description, design, and methods section. The main point of this section, or to summarize what the section is getting at, is what are you going to do with your project? We're looking for what the geographic scope of the project is, or what the service area of your project is going to be. We're looking at why this project is needed in that area, and what kind of solutions or best practices are going to be implemented in the process of carrying out your project. Yeah, next slide, Brandon. The next narrative section is the work plan. To summarize, this section would be, how are you going to do it? We're looking for specific details and key activities that we're going to fund through this project, as well as what the goals and measurable outcomes of that project, will be. And we're also asking for the timetable that you're estimating for completion of the project. As previously mentioned, we're looking for strong partnerships and collaborations through these proposals. So the main point here is who are you working with on this project? What is everyone bringing to the table, and what kind of contributions are being made by each of the partners? We're looking to see if it's financial contributions programming contributions, or what type of support is coming from the different partners.
Yeah, and Paul, I'll just offer a note and anticipating questions about this. You may be thinking, well, our organization is well positioned to manage a state grant and work with partners, but we don't necessarily provide childcare ourselves or have childcare expertise. If you don't have it, we want to see partners who do, right? You got to think about who's your coalition of partners that are going to provide the best collection of professionals and individuals and organizations and connections to make a strong project succeed. So if you're lacking in one area or don't have an experience in another, then you can work with a partner that does. So yeah, just a quick note there. We can go into more questions later.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Brandon. The next narrative section questions to talk about are the impact and evaluation section. This is where we'll look for an explanation of how much increase you're planning on having, and essentially what kind of difference you're making through this project. We're looking for specific metrics like number of childcare slots that are being created and number of childcare slots per state dollar being used. We're looking for real measurable outcomes that we can track over time, and that you as an applicant can track as well to ensure success throughout the course of the project. We're looking for potentially an explanation of how you would change and adapt as you're evaluating the project and as it goes on, so that we ultimately have successful projects as a result. The next section is organizational capacity and relevant experience. Here we're looking for what experience or capacity do you have to carry out this grant. We want to make sure that they're successful and that that the lead applicant in particular is able to administer a state grant of this type. So talking about past experiences in doing so would be appropriate in this section, and certainly make for a stronger proposal. And then finally, the last narrative section that we're looking for answers to questions on is the budget and matching section. We're looking for a discussion of the total budget request and how that money is going to be used. We're looking for an explanation of the 50% matching requirement, how you're meeting it, or alternatively, how you're qualifying for a matching waiver. And we're looking for if your organization or the organizations you're working with have engaged the private sector, and if there's any private sector investment coming into this, as well as other leverage from other economic development initiatives. Now I want to talk about the new bonus point section that we've added to the application. We added this as in an effort to direct funds to areas where we want to build supply where it's needed. And so we're hoping to direct funds towards areas where childcare is less available and where our funds will have the biggest impact. So the two areas that we're offering bonus points for are if the project is located in a service area where 30% or more of children are BIPOC, or where at least 15% of children living in the area are in families living in poverty. So you don't have to meet both criteria to qualify for the 10 bonus points. We'll provide an equivalent number of bonus points if you only meet one of the areas. But we want to make sure you know that bonus points are available and that you should identify if you believe you qualify for those in your proposal. And then these are the other documents that need to be submitted. These are required. The conflict of interest disclosure and the affidavit of non-collusion are both required documents for all proposals. For non-governmental organizations, we also require financial review documents. It will be a pre-award risk assessment and one of the following, depending on where your organization falls. But we want to ensure that organizations are aware of what you need to submit, because these are required for to have a full proposal. And finally, I want to reiterate the proposals are due at 4 p.m. on August 30th. We are not accepting late submissions. If it arrives after 4 p.m., we won't review it or accept it. We're asking that submissions are in a single PDF document. And please be aware of the maximum size here, which is 25 megabytes. Applications need to be submitted to the email address you see here. And as Brandon mentioned, we will send confirmation that it's been received in time.
Yeah, and just a quick caution on the file size. Just be careful of scanning images and scanning your documents as an image. Make sure you're using native PDF format or scanning that into a text reader. Just it will balloon the file size and then it may not go through and you're just going to have issues. So that's one reason to send it in early, to make sure it actually gets through. And we will send you a receipt that we've received it. So. And I'll take over from here and talk about, okay, you've submitted your proposal, what happens now? So the review committee will be composed of a variety of folks across. We'll have folks from DHS, we'll have folks from the Governor's Children's Cabinet, DEED, we'll have some community reviewers. By the way, if there's anybody on this call that if you're a stakeholder or you're not necessarily going to be submitting a proposal yourself, but you're interested in this space and you want to help us review the proposals, reach out to me. We'll happy to collect your information and see if we can slot you in and be a community reviewer. We do need some expertise to help us think through what proposals are going to be the most impactful. So if you are interested in being a community reviewer, I'll offer that opportunity for folks. Obviously, you can't have a conflict of interest. You can't be submitting a proposal yourself, but we do welcome that expertise. So we make that recommendation. Review those scores, make a recommendation to the Commissioner of DEED, who will review that, and an award decision will be made. And then we're hoping to make those award decisions by the end of October, if not sooner. And a key thing to note here is projects cannot start until contracts are executed. I want to underline that piece. You may be working on a project right now and you go, well, wouldn't it be great if we can get some additional funding so we can build out better space or get some new equipment for our new space that we're building? Can we apply? Yes, you can apply, even if your project has already started. But to meet the matching requirements, any of those project costs have to happen after an award is made. And so you have to demonstrate, you also have to demonstrate and make the case that this funding is required for your project, even though it may have started already. So you're not excluded, but you have a stronger case you'll need to make that this funding is needed. But you're not excluded. If you are awarded a grant, okay, what happens now? You'll receive an official award letter with a final award amount. Oftentimes what you request is not, even if you are granted an award, it'll oftentimes be less than that. Usually we're oversubscribed by funds and we're trying to hit various geographic and equity needs, and oftentimes we try to balance that out and give folks a little bit of a haircut so we can fund more for more good projects. But you'll receive the final award amount, and then you'll be asked to submit an updated work plan budget if the final award amount is different from the request. We do try to give everybody everything that they ask for, but sometimes that's just not possible. And then you'll receive, review, and sign the grant contract and send that back to DEED. You'll have an executed grant agreement, and then you'll be off and running. And you'll participate in the payment request monitoring, reporting, and closeout process. One thing to note that may be relevant for folks, depending on the type of project you're working on, is that all grant funds are dispersed on a reimbursement basis. We do not advance the funds. You incur those costs. You request reimbursement for those expenses, and then we pay that out, right? As we're wrapping up the bulk of the details about the RFP, we are here to take questions and provide technical assistance to you in submitting your proposal. We want to help everybody. We have to help everybody equally, so we cannot provide one-on-one technical assistance. But please submit us your questions. there's a Q&A in this session today. You can drop those questions in the chat. We will address any questions that people have today, and we will also post those on the FAQ. We will make this recording, slides, and all questions and answers will be published in a FAQ and posted where the RFP is posted, and we will update that regularly. So if you have a great question, don't be shy, ask it. I guarantee you 10 other people have the same question. So, yeah, that's basically all we have. I'll leave this is the more relevant information. I'll leave this up. Here's our email. It's in the slide if you want to contact us directly. But if you have a question specific about this funding opportunity, it's best to go to the mnspb.deed@state.mn.us so that we can make sure that we're collecting all those questions in one spot and can address them quickly. So please send us your questions. So we got through that content faster than I expected. Thanks for covering all of that, Paul. And then let's go to the questions in the chat. Let's see. All right. We have some technical issues, so I hope those got resolved. Sorry about that. First question, can the grant be used towards cost to acquire a building, or can it be used for the cost of rehab? The cost can be used to acquire a building. You'll have to demonstrate in your proposal, of course, how that is going to create new supply. Of course, that's going to be part of a whole comprehensive project. But yes, that is an eligible use. Another question asks, are indirect costs permitted? I take this to mean like our administrative expenses, like costs not directly related to the project, allowed? The answer is potentially yes, they're not excluded. No more than 10% of the grant can be used for what we call administrative expenses, which include indirect costs. So for example, if you're a organization that's applying and you're going to receive an allocation of funding to then grant out to individual providers, you can take up to 10% of the grant to cover your cost to administer that grant, which once again, I'll repeat that includes indirect costs and administrative expenses. Another question asks, what level of commitment are partners required to do? Are they required to make financial requirements, or can be sharing of space or resources? So both cash and in-kind matching does count. So you may have a variety of partners that are providing funding. You may have a variety of partners that you're providing funding to, let's say perhaps to help you do some outreach or do some evaluation of proposals or provide technical assistance or something like that. And then you may also have partners that are providing funding to you to provide matching or space or other resources. So all of that is allowed, both cash and in-kind. Another question is, can a county apply as an intermediary and distribute funds to a collection of childcare providers within the county? The answer to that is yes. Local governments are eligible to apply for and receive these funds to work with childcare providers in their community. We only, I just want to underline a point that I brought up earlier, is that a county may not necessarily have the on-staff expertise to understand, what's going to make a successful childcare center or support a family childcare, but there are, you could potentially find a community partner to work with you on that, and so that would make your proposal stronger. I guess I need to publish these questions. One question asks, if we have been working with Think Small or First Children's Finance, would they be considered as partners? Potentially, yeah. Even if it's on an in-kind basis, you can consider them as partners. It depends on, you'll have to, show in your proposal what that relationship is like and what their role is. But yes, those are organizations that have partnered with other communities or even applied directly to this program in the past. Another question asked, what is the difference between direct subsidies or incentives or retain employees and revenue for the financing of ongoing operations as an ineligible cost? Can you provide an example? So this is a really great question. Thank you for asking this. So the revenue, the intent of this program is not to provide revenue for the financing of ongoing operations, right? Now, that's not to say that this grant could be used to defray startup costs or expansion costs, and part of that cost may be subsidies for employees' wages or incentives to retain employees, right? Those are distinctions. The key thing that we're driving at is this cannot just be revenue to finance ongoing operations that does not increase the supply of childcare, right? This has to be a part of a new facility, a new operation, or an expansion of an existing operation. And you have to make the case that this is not just replacing revenue or displacing revenue, it's part of a startup or expansion project, right? Because this is one-time funding. This is not ongoing funding. And so this is really about how can this one-time funding investment increase the supply of childcare in a community. And so if we received proposals in the past that are we're just going to finance our existing operation, we're not really expanding it. That's not really what this is for. That is no doubt a need. Trust me, I know. We have some programs that address that through other agencies and other funding mechanisms, but that's not what this program is. So I just want to make sure that that's clear. Another question is, if you were to use it as an employee, this grant as an employee incentive, how does that work? Well, that's what we need to see in the proposal. How would that work, right? It's an allowable use. You have to submit a proposal that shows us how you're going to use that and make that work to expand and grow the supply of childcare in your community. So, there's a variety of ideas out there. Perhaps you have entry-level staff at your childcare center, and to expand your supply, you need to upgrade their skills so that they can become a head teacher or assistant director or something like that. And you're going to create an incentive for them to get those credentials. And at the end of getting those credentials, there's a financial reward. That's an example. There's a variety of different ways you can do this. It's an allowable use. It's incumbent on the proposer to demonstrate to us how is that actually going to expand the supply of childcare in that community. Alicia asks, does the match have to be deposited by the end of August, or can it be a letter pledging their amount? A letter pledging the amount is sufficient. Stronger proposals are going to be able to demonstrate that that match is committed and available throughout the project. Less competitive proposals are gonna, they're going to say, well, we're going for this grant or this funding opportunity, but we're not sure we're going to get it. That's going to be a less competitive proposal. So the more you can demonstrate that the money is going to be available, it's going to be there, and it's going to go to work, the stronger your proposal is going to be. Another great question. If I was awarded during the first round of this funding, am I still eligible to apply and receive funds from the second round? Absolutely. Of course, if you're talking about it's the same facility, we want to see, okay, how is this expanding supply at that facility? If a facility was funded before, is this another expansion? And what is going to be the net increase in the childcare supply and slots and providers? So you're not excluded from applying again. Another question, will there be another round of funds next year if we don't get the funding this year? This funding is in the base budget. I believe it's at $1 million a year, so we anticipate that there will be more funding, but that's incumbent on the legislature. The legislature can always change their mind. They could also increase the funding. So we don't know until a bill is passed in the summer of next year, but we hope and we will advocate for additional funding for this program. Thanks for all the great questions, by the way. I love this. This is great. I think it's a benefit to everybody that you're asking these, and we can get through these right now. Can part of the request be to start paying for a director to help get our project up and going? Or can it be used to hire a grant writer? Let me answer the first question. So yes, it can be used to for startup costs, which may include personnel costs to start up a new program. Obviously, let's think about a wholly new program. You know, there's a gap between the doors opening and getting all your capacity filled up with new families and children. And so there's some operating revenue, upfront operating revenue that you'll need to have. And this grant could be used for that upfront startup costs, right? But once again, have to make the case, how is this the best use of funds to increase the supply? Thanks for the great questions, Alicia. Another question, are brick and mortar projects eligible? Very much so. In fact, something maybe we should have did a better job underlining in the beginning is that we see this grant program as making investments in physical and human capital, sustainable one-time investments that they're made once, but the benefits of those investments sustain after this one-time use. So, you know, upgrading the skills of employees, retaining great employees, hiring incentives to get new employees in the door, building new facilities, equipment for new facilities, rehabbing existing facilities. Those are all good and encouraged. Do the bonus points focus areas only relate to the location of the program geographically? What if our program is targeting specific BIPOC communities or families in poverty from throughout the certain cities, but our location may not be geographically within the bonus parameters? It's a great question. For the bonus points, we are focusing on geography, but within the content of your proposal, if you're targeting those communities, we want to know about that. Please highlight that in your proposal, and that'll only strengthen your proposal. But those bonus points, the intent of those bonus points, it's a binary. It's there or not. It's not subjective. It's totally objective. And so that's why the bonus points are there to make some equitable investments where they're needed most. Suzanne asks, is there a limit to the number of childcare slots sizes in a facility? What is too small? Well, we're looking for licensed childcare facilities. So, you know, typically for a family childcare providers and programs are an eligible recipient of these funds. They're not eligible to apply directly for these funds through this program, but intermediary organization like the county example earlier could work with family childcare providers. And, you know, that's anywhere between 6 to, I think, up to 12, 14 individuals, depending on the arrangement. So there's really nothing too small. This isn't all, we want all the slots we can get in the communities where it's needed most. So thanks, Suzanne, for that question. Will we get feedback on our proposal? We need to do a better job at this, and my answer is yes. Upon request, we're not going to just you know, do it across the board, but if you request feedback, we will set aside time for you and walk through, if you didn't get funded, why you didn't get funded. We try to meet all those requests, but of course time is limited. We try to do that as best we can, but we're not always as good as we want to be about that. Another question. Will there, this is kind of a repeat question. Will there be continuation of funding after 2023? We expect it. It's in the base. It's funded, but you know, you never know until a budget bill is passed. But we expect this, and we'll prioritize funding for this. So if there is additional funding available in 2023, we will of course announce that. We will, and everybody will know about it. Another question, does the project have to be completed entirely by December 31st, 2023? What if there are delays in the project when the available that impact when the available new slots are created? We do have some flexibility. You should submit a work plan. You should have a budget that's that will deliver the project will be completed by December 31st, 2023. But if you are awarded, we have some flexibility to extend that. Just don't plan on it, but we can extend it if needed. An additional, I think, up to 6 months, but we take that on a case-by-case basis. A question about match. So 50% match, is that $75K if applying for 150, or do we need 150K to apply for 150K? So if you're applying for in this example, $150,000, then you will have to match that at 50%. So that would be $75,000 for 150,000, both either in kind or cash match. Answered that. Question is, do we have to already have a DHS license to apply? If we are a startup, can we use the funds to help pay for DHS licensing process? So you do not have to have a DHS license to apply, but you have to obviously demonstrate that you're on that path. And yes, this grant fund can go to help defray the cost of licensing. Now, the intent, once again, I just want to underline that the intent of this program is to provide grants to communities to address their childcare shortages. We are, while individual providers that qualify, for example, like a nonprofit provider, they're not ineligible from applying, but the strongest proposals are going to be ones that are working with community and regional groups to address a community-wide need, which may include a single provider or multiple providers. But like I said, an individual nonprofit provider is eligible to apply for a single location, but we really want to see what the community involvement is in that and support for that, and demonstrating that this is the project, or this is a project that is that has community buy-in and broad community support and addresses that community's economic development needs. But the kind of gold standard projects that compete really well through this program are where you're working with a regional or local organization, whether it's a county or a foundation or a city even, that is going to address multiple projects, multiple locations to expand childcare in that community. And that is all I think I've exhausted all the questions that are in the chat. And we're 15 minutes before noon, so we're being very efficient here. And are there any other questions? I'll allow a couple minutes for some additional questions to come through. Otherwise, we will wrap up and save the balance of our time. Thanks for all the great questions, by the way. It's very helpful for everybody else. And we will copy these questions and we will publish them in the FAQ. A new question we have here is, can you apply via a county as a fiscal agent and do a project in 2 different cities for a total of 2 projects? Absolutely, yes. A county is an eligible entity and you can do multiple projects in multiple cities. That's kind of what we like to see, actually. We want to see local and regional strategies because this is a this is a local and regional and statewide issue that requires all hands on deck to address. We are in the midst of a childcare crisis now predating the pandemic, but the pandemic has added new challenges in this space. And so we really want to see communities getting involved and developing great solutions to address their needs. And I'll give a last call for questions. And sorry for the technical issues in the beginning. I don't know what happened there. I hope everybody was able to get in. But we will post the recording of this where the RFP is published, and you'll be able to review that. Great. Well, not seeing any new questions. No doubt some will pop up after this session. Please send that to mnspb. deed@state.mn.us. And Paul and I will address those as quickly as possible. We do have a few in the hopper already. And so if you're here and you're like, why didn't you answer my email? We will get back to you shortly, within the next day or two. All right. Well, thanks, everybody. Any last minute comments, Paul, or anything? Just a head nod? All right. All right. Well, thanks, everybody. And thanks for your time. And I'm glad we were able to get through all that content quickly. And look forward to seeing all your great proposals. And I just want to thank everybody in advance for all the time and effort you're going to put in these proposals. This is an incredibly important issue. This is a high priority for us to address these needs. And we really hope that this, while modest, program can make a big impact for the communities where they're suffering the most acute childcare shortages. This is very, very important work. This is hard work. And we appreciate all your time and attention to this issue. So thanks a lot, and look forward to reading all these great proposals. Well, thanks a lot, everybody.